Hey everyone, I'm Dean Obidala, and welcome to tonight's Dean Obidala Show on Sirius XM Channel 127. It is Monday, April 26th. I hope you had a good weekend. As always, I'm always here to be your BFF. So what we're seeing right now from the GOP is very interesting. It's a concerted gaslighting scheme to try to make us think what we saw with our own eyes or what we've read about isn't true in three different areas. One has to do with the January 6th insurrection incited by Donald Trump. Why Donald Trump is not under arrest yet is the question we all have. Number two, we have Rick Santorum trying to say that there was no such thing as Native American culture, so that the idea being that when white Europeans slaughtered Native Americans, there's no sense of any accountability or responsibility that needs to be discussed. And third, and it's intertwined with that, is Lindsey Graham saying yesterday on cable news that there is no such thing as systemic racism. Why? Because Barack Obama won. Don't you get it? Because a black man won for president, there can't be racism in this country. Look, all three are intertwined, and we'll talk about them more on my show tonight, which again is 6 to 9 p.m. But the Lindsey Graham comment is the most jarring and also insightful in telling us what the GOP base is about. Here's the bottom line. The reason Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump, Bill Barr, and others on the right have denied there's a thing called systemic racism or ongoing racism that's institutionalized. The reason they deny it, because they have a vested interest in ensuring that it's maintained the status quo because they benefit from it. It's that simple. They benefit from the system right now, which is completely infected with systemic racism. I'm talking about the criminal justice system, even our society. And because while they might not know exactly how things will change if you address systemic racism, they know under the status quo, under what we have now, they either financially prosper or financially and politically prosper. For some of them, it's both. So any change is a threat to that. They don't know exactly how much, but they know the status quo is good and change is bad. They also have the same mindset of many on the right, as we've learned, the zero-sum mentality, which is if a black or brown person advances in any way, even including in terms of equality, to them, it's diluting white power. So it's zero sum. It always adds up to zero. So +1 for black and brown people, it's a -1 for white people. That's what's going on right here. And what Lindsey Graham literally said yesterday on TV is we cannot have systemic racism because Barack Obama won 2 terms and Vice President Harris was elected. This is ridiculous. This is outrageous because statistics tell us, we've gone through them on the show, we have systemic racism in our criminal justice system, from black people being 20% more likely to be pulled over than white people, through all the way to sentencing, where it's 10% longer prison sentences if you're black versus white for the same offense, the same priors. And of course, the most egregious statistic and heartbreaking is that if you're black, you're 3 times more likely to be killed by the police than you're white. These are backed up by data. This is not me making these numbers up. If there was not data backing it up, I would not continue to talk about it. It is there. It is real. It is systemic. It's institutionalized. But the reality is what Lindsey Graham is saying, and Trump and Bill Barr and others on the right, it mirrors exactly what polls show of the GOP. There was a poll a few months ago, really widespread, really good methodology poll. And while nearly 60% of all Americans think there is systemic racism against people of color, primarily black, from our criminal justice system, among Republicans, nearly 80% was 79%, said there is no such thing as systemic racism. They're just a handful of bad police officers treating black people badly. That's what they believe. They don't want to believe systemic racism either because, again, even the lower level, even white people who are poor and not doing well, inherently get a sense that if a black person gets more equality or treated more fairly, somehow in their view, they lose. That's misplaced. It's wrong, but that's where they stand right now. And that's what we're dealing with in our society. But even going to the idea of, well, okay, there's not systemic racism, but there are some bad police officers and their treatment of black people are horrific and they should be prosecuted. Well, you'd say you have no better example than Derek Chauvin and his horrific, grotesque murder of George Floyd. The problem is, so he was convicted. You would think Republicans would say overwhelmingly, well, that's the right thing. There's no systemic racism, but look at this horrific situation and justice was served. No, a new poll came out, CBS poll. It's a really good poll, Sunday. Guess what percentage of Republicans do not agree with the verdict in the Derek Chauvin case? Nearly 50%, 46%, which means 1 in 2 Republicans saw the video of what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd while he was handcuffed and had his face on the ground, He put his knee on him for over 9 minutes and killed him literally in the street. Republicans saw that. And 1 out of 2 said, that's not a crime. Nothing there was wrong. So I ask you this, when 80% of the GOP does not believe in systemic racism, even 50% do not believe that Derek Chauvin should have been prosecuted or convicted for his crimes, where is their common ground to build consensus on criminal justice reform? We have a lot of talk now about criminal justice reform. Tim Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate, is going to lead the charge from South Carolina. That's great, but where is the basis in the GOP for anything other than window dressing? They will not address the heart of the issue. That's the world we live in. Those polls back it up. It's not me giving my theories or my views on this. I'm basing it on polls, 2 polls. Talk to Republicans. Talk to white conservative men. They will tell you there's no systemic racism. And interestingly, of the 50% of Republicans who do not agree with the Derek Chauvin verdict, they all have a negative view of Black Lives Matter. What it really comes down to is they don't think Black Lives Matter. It's really that simple. And it's sad. And that number is far higher than it should ever be. And I think, sadly, it might get even more traction among the right going forward. I hope it doesn't infect and corrupt those in the middle as well. There was a poll today that came out on favorability views of Biden, and they were comparing Obama. The new poll, they polled Donald Trump. 32% of Americans have a favorable view. I think it's fair to say 32% of Americans are white nationalists or believe in white supremacy, because this was not a poll about the January 6th insurrection or anything like that. So today, now, the new poll, do you have a favorable view of Donald Trump? 32% said yes. That's 1 in 3 Americans are white nationalists. We can't get that number to go any higher. This is the time with President Biden, Democrats having the House and Senate, through policy, we have to change things to make things better, because you're not going to build coalitions with people who do not believe there's a problem. That's the reality. So we'll talk about this more on my show tonight. In fact, I'd love you to join the conversation. My show is live 6 to 9 p.m. on SiriusXM channel 127. If you don't subscribe to SiriusXM, go to the website. There are free trials. Do a free trial. Call into my show. Be a part of our family. We got a lot of work to do. You can see it. So much to get done. And the only way to do it is, if you want progress, stay active. Thanks for tuning into the preview of tonight's Dino Bidala Show.